What's up, everybody? I'm back with another top 5 Soul Lane video, plus the honorable mentions, plus their builds like I always do. Gonna break down the top gods and how to build them right now so you can be winning your casuals or your ranked games, whatever you like to play. The builds actually have been changing pretty rapidly ever since the start of Season 10 because they're trying to balance out the game and people are trying to figure out what to build. So they're making constant changes right now. So yeah, I went ahead and already put the builds in the game itself, put it in the God Builder tab. I don't usually do that, but it should save us some time. So like some other aspects of my life, this shouldn't last very long. So without further ado, let's just get into it. At number 5, I'm going to have Hades. So Hades build is pretty much similar to what it was last year. I think that this character, might be the #1 win rate right now in Conquest. I may be mistaken there, but it's definitely very high. So this character is still very good. I've been playing it too much just because I prefer the physicals ever since the start of Season 10, and I still do. But the character is still good, and that's why I have him at number 5. Basically the same build. You want to go this Book of Thoth, Bancroft's Claw route where you get a huge shield from Claw. Poly procs, you're going to be one-shotting if you blink ult late game with all of the procs from your ultimate and the damage mitigation, plus Tainted Breastplate and Mantle to just round it out, just to make sure you're really tanky, even with all the damage that you have. And I actually threw Spear of the Magus in now with the build. I think that's pretty nice. Gives you a little bit more lifesteal and makes your poly procs and your damage on your ult hit really hard late game. So yeah, with Book of Thoth fully stacked, you're going to be sitting around like 550 power, and then if you get like a 500 paw and like a Fire Giant, you're going to have like 700, 800 magical power while still being very, very tanky. You could switch out some items here and there if you really want to. Like, let's say they have Crit, you might want to consider going Spectral instead of Mantle. Also, maybe you're fed. Maybe you feel like you're tanky enough. You don't even need to have Mantle here. You could go just another damage item, whether that's like a flat pen item like Spear of Desolation or Divine, or something like Rotted to Hades, so you can kind of like one-shot them when they're below 50%. So yeah, that's Hades at number 5. Coming at number 4, we have Achilles. So I think Achilles is actually a lot better on this map just because there's kind of a lack of farm on solo side of the map, and one of Achilles' problems is that he isn't very good at farming. So it's hard for him to clear the wave, walk in the jungle, clear the camps, come back, and be in time for the next wave. That's not really a problem right now. It's a lot of like trading and just sitting there and clearing the wave. Yeah, for the most part, I would say that's part of the reason he's good, but also just the build is so sick on him. So yeah, you're going to be going teleport on basically everybody besides Hades, because Hades, he needs that blink and beads for the late game, just so you don't get one shot because you're a bit more damaging. But a character like Achilles doesn't have to worry about that. You go Axe, Tier 1 Breastplate, 5 health pots. And keep in mind that the mitigation build is still viable, and so is Bluestone. I just think that with how strong Axe is with the buffs they gave it, and kind of with how the meta is shifting into a more like this late game dominant solo lane meta, you kind of want to have a really, really strong late game starter item. So Thundering Axe is really good for that, and you want to build for that as well. So Breastplate of Regrowth, probably the best addition or best item in the game for Season 10 for solo laners. Into a Glad Shield, into Prophetic. What I like about this build with Achilles is that he can get magical defense from his passive, obviously, but also you have 3 physical defense items. I consider this a physical defense item because you're not going to get the magical stacks on it until you start to rotate and start hitting a magical, unless, of course, you're laning against a magical, which in that case, you probably want to build this here. I would still go Breastplate of Regrowth first item against magicals a lot of the time just because most of them don't really threaten you. But the cool part about it is that you have 3 physical defense items, and then once you get this, you get so many procs from all of your physical defense items because the glyph with the conversion is just so strong that you're going to be chilling on the magical defense side, and especially once you switch over to your armored passive. I usually switch over to my armored passive once I have a full Sundering Axe, and then I like to round out the build with an Archdruid's Fury just because that little bit of extra damage can help you solo carries in the late game. You can also go a Spirit Robe here if you want that, just be a little bit tankier. Sometimes I go Mail of Renewal in that spot if they don't have any anti-heal for me, so I'll just go ahead and throw that in. I'll throw both of those just so you guys can see it on screen. And I usually go TP Blink. Always go TP and then upgrade that to Heroic Teleport on every single solo laner that goes TP. But I also consider going Sundering in a lot of games. If they don't have a lot of CC and I don't need to worry about it, then I don't really need to go Beads. And I think Sundering just allows you to be so threatening to the enemy backline, and it's such a strong a relic. Don't ever go Thorns. This is a much better version of Thorns that does a lot more damage and can threaten tanks with it. It's just crazy. And it can proc your Sundering Axe, by the way. So if you're at range and you Sundering Blast somebody for like 600 true damage, and then also hit him with your Sundering Axe, especially a tank, you're going to be doing like 1100, 1200 damage to them just by clicking Sunder on them, which is absolutely absurd. So yeah, that's the Achilles build. Most of the time I will be going Blink though. And your Axe procs, once you click 2 and are in your armor stance late game, you'll have 390 of each prot, and your Axe procs will be hitting for about 600, 700, which is absolutely insane. If they have no anti-heal, you are never going to die. Speaking of anti-heal, Guan Yu coming in at number 3. Build's still pretty similar for him as well. Like I said, Axe, Tier 1 Breastplate, Health Potions, and Teleport. Now, this character can get away with Sigil, but also Bluestone is very strong on him. Consider going that if you're more of a Bluestone player right now. I just think that this is kind of the way of the road. Breastplate of Regrowth into a Lotus Sickle instead of Glad Shield, just because the Lotus procs on Guan are going to be really strong for your team, and he's a character that wants to stick with his team a little bit more with his heals. Then into a Genji, a little bit more CDR reliant, and of course Guan gets a lot of value out of that with his passive. I actually been considering going Caduceus Club, however you say the item. 2,500 gold. I actually don't think the item is that strong, but on Guan Yu specifically, and especially if you go into a meditation second item and then upgrade that to the cooldown meditation, it's just a really strong combination there. And also the fact that, you know, that 20% extra healing is for your entire team, and there's a lot of healing in the game right now across a lot of different items, so definitely consider that. Not only for Guan heals, but for your team as well. Into the Sundering Axe, which is also going to be healing, by the way, so that's also nice. Into a Mantle of Discord, whatever you really need, last item. You're going to be lacking a little bit in the magical defense department if you go straight into like a Spectral here. Say they have crit, which is pretty prevalent right now, so you got to keep that in mind and be a bit aware of that. If you are going to have to do that, then maybe consider going a hybrid item, hybrid defense item here, like a Mantle or a Spirit Robe, just so you're not getting absolutely one-shot by their magical characters, especially if they have like a magical ADC and a magical mid, which is kind of prevalent. So you got to be careful with that when you're building right now. Just make sure you're not stacking too much physical defense. So something you can always do is just throw a Heartward Glyph into your build, and that'll always help, because even if you have a lot of physical defense, that Heartward Glyph is going to get a ton of value from the conversion. So yeah, that's Guan Yu at number 3. And at most times I'll have TP Blink, but I also like to go Meditation, especially if I go Caduceus. And also consider going Sunder on Guan Yu, just because he's a very safe character that can get a lot of value out of sundering a front line, shredding them with his 3, and bursting them down. Number 2 is Hercules. Kind of goes without saying, this character has been buffed like 3 or 4 times over the past few months. He's just insane now. Really strong in lane, really strong in team fights, puts people out of position, can get away with a lot of builds. I like this build on him. Bluestone's also strong. Probably wouldn't go Sigil on him anymore. People were going Sigil Golden Blade in the play-ins, but that build did get nerfed. That's part of the reason I'm making this video, to kind of update people on builds. So yeah, kind of similar route where we just go Breastplate of Regrowth, Glad Shield, Genji's Wingblade. Very movement speed heavy and reliant character, kind of like another character we're about to talk about. So yeah, it's very strong on Herc, just to put people out of position and actually catch up to him. Into that Sundering Axe, and then going Arc Druids. I like the Arc Druids just because you CC or you auto attack cancel a lot on this character, and it can help you solo people late game, which is always what it's about as a soul laner. So you're going to be pretty tanky with this build. Looking at the prots, a lot of health, and you'll be hitting pretty hard. So that's what I like. TP and beads a lot of the time on Herc, just because he's pretty easily countered by cripples and people trying to like focus him out after he uses his dash in a team fight, because that's kind of like your only safety, especially if they go anti-heal. So beads is kind of necessary a lot of the time, and you don't really need Blink to get to their backline just because of the Regrowth Wingblade procs, but you can consider going Blink, and you can also consider going Sunder if they have no CC for you. But a lot of time it's just going to be TP beads. It's pretty standard. That is Herc at number 2. And before we talk about number 1, just 2 quick honorable mentions. I'm going to go ahead and say Tyr. Tyr, he's a very good rank god, and that's why I'm putting him on this list. Pretty similar build to everybody else. Movement speed, like I talked about with just now with Herc, except he's going to be going Bluestone. Bluestone on this character, Herc, and probably Cuchulainn, or not Herc, sorry, King Arthur, and probably Cuchulainn, but you could also go Axe on Cuchulainn, and you'd be fine, and Sigil. It's really up to you. It's kind of cool that people, you know, you have some options, but Bluestone definitely on Tyr, just so you can actually clear the wave and be threatening late game with these Bluestone procs, because otherwise you don't really hit that hard if you don't have Bluestone procs to go with it. But yeah, pretty standard build, you know, nothing too crazy. CDR and of course movement speed. And I like to go, part of the reason I don't think Tyr is that strong is because he can't really go TP. You can go TP on the character, but it kind of removes his like big strength early game and making plays with Blink. And you can just go Blink Beads or Blink Sunder. Usually when I play Tyr, I go Blink Sunder, and I go the Fire Blink plus Sundering Blast, and it's just crazy fun to run around with that. But yeah, he's more of a ranked character, can kind of get focused too hard out in competitive, or not really focused, but focused by literally ignoring him. Clio is the other honorable mention I just wanted to talk about real quick, and the reason she's an honorable mention is because she is not a standard soul laner, and you shouldn't be building tank on her. You can, I think it can work, but for the most part, you just want to be going full damage. The reason I'm putting this in here is because if you're comfortable in the soul lane and you feel like you can establish lead, this character is insane right now. I think this character can be played in like 4 roles, maybe even 5, and she just does so much damage. She's really strong on this map with all the walls in the game, and yeah, I think if you want to, you can play Clio. She's pretty safe in lane as well, because you can just ult waves and full heal with Soul Heater. But yeah, This is the proc build as well with Heartseeker procs, Crusher procs, Bluestone procs. You're going to be one-shotting people late game. So is an honorable mention because I'm not going to be recommending people to play full damage characters if they're not comfortable in the solo lane or don't feel like they need to carry their games. Coming in at number 1, you guys probably guessed it, we have Certa. I think Certa is very, very strong. I've been playing him quite a lot lately. I think before I thought his late game wasn't that strong, but I actually don't think that anymore, especially with the Sundering Axe build and this one especially. So same thing as always, you get the axe, the tier 1 breastplate, 5 health pots, teleport. Keep in mind with all these builds as well, I forgot to mention, whenever you can, try and upgrade your teleport to tier 2 teleport. If you can TP back in with tier 2 teleport, tier 2 breastplate, and a health chalice, that's like the best possible back you can get is TPing back in with all 3 of those items, because it's just going to help you lane for the rest of the game and hyper farm and get to all these items. Plus, it'll make it easier for you to actually upgrade to a heroic teleport, which is also really strong. So you go breastplate to regrowth, glad shield, heartward amulet. You definitely want to go this because it increases your Sundering Axe procs and your glad shield procs with all the procs that it gives you. I like to go binding and arc druids just because he has quite a bit of CC, and it will just help you kill people with that flat prot reduction, and the arc druids procs will help you with that as well. A lot of times I'll go blink, but also always consider Sundering Blast. I think it's really, really strong and just helps you solo people. So this is the build on Certa. And yeah, I think he's number 1. He doesn't have really any bad lanes. And like I said, I thought his late game wasn't that great, but I disagree with that now. I think his late game's really good. So it's kind of he's just good at all points in the game and just heals way too much. His passive is way too strong. So yeah, that's it. So just to recap real quick, we have Hades at number 5, Achilles at number 4, Guan at number 3, Hercules at number 2. Honorable mentions go to Tyr and Clio. And then number 1, we have Certa. Like always, guys, if you're playing Cuchulainn, I think it's still really strong. Mulan's like a sleeper pick. King Arthur is a sleeper pick in my opinion. Odin, if into the right comps, if you can counter him with his cage, is still good. So yeah, you can still consider going all those characters, but I do want to recommend these 5 characters especially, and with these builds. So yeah, try them out. Let me know what you guys think. Stay safe and healthy as always, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.